I think if you lead with care and you have people that care and you hire people that care, the company and everything is going to pull through the tough times a lot quicker and better and stronger.
Welcome to Flip Your Script, the podcast about life's critical turning points and how people find the inspiration and motivation to move forward and rewrite their unique stories. Flip Your Script is produced by Media Minefield, a public relations firm passionate about the power of sharing stories. Specializing in earned and social media, Media Minefield helps clients take control of their unique story and message. The show is hosted by Kristi Piehl, founder and CEO of Media Minefield, who flipped her script from an Emmy-winning journalist to a successful entrepreneur and speaker.
Today's guest has rewritten his story a few times and is reinventing an industry. Because of his role, he spends time with everyone from well-known celebrities to high-powered politicians. But Brandon Sawalich really is more comfortable in an old Cubs t-shirt and sneakers. He came from humble beginnings and has led his company through an event that would have brought most people and organizations to their knees. Brandon is the president and CEO of Starkey, the only American-owned and American-operated provider of hearing aids. Starkey has 26 facilities around the world and more than 5,000 employees. And if you think hearing aids or the business is boring, that's about to change. Brandon is a member of George W. Bush Presidential Center's Executive Advisory Council and chairman of the Hearing Industries Association. And I could go on, but to me, most importantly, Brandon is a dear friend. Welcome to the podcast, Brandon.
Thank you, Kristi. I appreciate you having me and look forward to the discussion.
So you heard all the introduction and all the things that go after your name, and I didn't even say them all. You think about yourself like as a 12-year-old. If you would have heard all the things that I said, what would you have thought?
No way. I even as I was listening to you read and talk about my background, it still makes me uncomfortable because one of the things that I'm not about is talking about myself or accomplishments because I'm always looking forward.
So I know you like to look forward, but I want to look back if you don't mind. So your background and where you are now, it's one of those stories that little kids, I think, need to know that anything is possible with a lot of hard work and other things that you've done. But tell me about, where you grew up and how you grew up and how much you loved school, which I say with a lot of sarcasm.
I grew up in southern Illinois, so a small coal mining town, West Frankfort, Illinois, to be exact, around 5,000, population of 5,000. And my dad was a coal miner, and I grew up with a lot of good people. It's one of those Midwest stories, right? So every 4th of July is a barbecue and the baseball and fireworks, and you just played with your friends and did what you could outside and be very active. And for me, school was not my focus, or I'll say interest. I guess so then focus follows after that. But I'm just a small town boy, raised in the Midwest, that continues to probably have more of that inside of me than a corporate CEO. So you always got to balance the two.
And so before you moved away and did other things with Starkey, if you would have thought about someone with your title as a kid, would you have liked that person, or did you have some stereotypes about that?
Back then, you saw vice presidents and presidents, or you saw a lot on TV back then, of course, and I say back then, 80s, when there was, still 3 news channels and 13 channels you could look at. But for me growing up, I never thought about it because I was the one that just naturally, if we were playing wiffle ball, kickball, tag, hide, go seek, go through the list, I was the one that kind of naturally wanted to be in charge. Right, wrong, or indifferent, but I wanted to coordinate, manage. I played some sports, played baseball. I attempted basketball, but wasn't very good. But so then I wasn't good at basketball, so then I was the basketball team's manager. So I kept the stats, helped organize for the coach, a lot of different things. And then school wasn't something that, I, from I'll say conform, that really got my interest. I got by, probably procrastinated a lot. My grades would not reflect the job that I have now by any means. But at the last minute when I had to do what needed to be done, I stepped up and got it done, because I was always looking out and really what's next, and the things that I had interest in, not in a classroom.
So you graduate, and you did graduate. I just want to clear that up, right? From high school? Okay.
Barely, but I did. No, yes, I did. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you graduate from high school, and then what do you do?
I went to 1 year of college. I went to Rend Lake College in Southern Illinois. So I graduated from high school. I went a year of junior college. And then I came to Minneapolis here for a summer and started working and helping out here at Starkey, and really just helping out. And then I liked it so much, I never went back to Southern Illinois. So I stayed up here and I fell in love with, this was all new. This was the big city. I mean, this was totally different. I mean, I was being exposed to things that I never really knew about or thought about, but was learning quickly.
So you start at the very bottom at Starkey, and you had a connection through your mother to the company.
Yes.
Did everyone
Yes.
know? Well, first of all, talk about what that was, and did everyone know that? Like, was that a hard thing to be around?
I was oblivious probably to it. Knowing what I know now, probably everybody had known. So my mother and Mr. Austin, the CEO of Starkey at the time, and still the owner, were dating. And I was came up here to visit her and both of them. And then again, I was picking people up at the airport. I was dropping people off at Mall of America. I was kind of, as I joked at the time, because Mr. Austin's title was CEO, I was the chief executive gopher, because that's what, I like to do, is just kind of stay busy. And I got to talk to a lot of people, meet a lot of new people, whether it was here, the employees or customers that were coming in town. So if I wasn't running people around town, then I was working in our all-make repair lab, learning, about old waxy hearing aids and, taking the faceplates off and taking the parts out, and then making earmolds back in the earmold lab. So Bill assigned me to the right jobs at the right time. Some of them I was questioning, like, why? I always liken it to the movie Karate Kid, wax on, wax off, no pun intended, but it all kind of helped out and came together. But the biggest thing for me, looking back now, is the jobs that I had meeting the customers. And these are now lifelong relationships where they trust me, respect, integrity, where those relationships have been lasting. And it's come in handy, of course, with business and what we're doing and where we're going and what we've been through. And, it's priceless. What I learned back then and was able to build upon was priceless, and has helped me in my job now.
So did you feel like, because you had this connection to Mr. Austin, that you, and everybody knew it, did you have to work harder because people expected you to get a free ride? Or were you not aware of that when you were that young? I wasn't
aware of probably some of the comments, or I would say human nature of, the animosity, or, what's this kid going to do, right? What job's he going to have? What's he doing around? Oh, he won't be around here long. Whatever the thought might be, I had a lot of people back then that helped me out, and that taught me a lot. I also had a lot of people, now that I look back, I understand some of the questions and some of the treatment, but the animosity was there. But for me, I realized I had a strong work ethic regardless. So, Bill quickly told me, even before I started at Starkey, when I started, he came into my life and our lives, be the first in and the last out. And wasn't going to school at the time. I didn't have any friends up here because I just moved up here. So I was the first in and the last out. And for me, it was always about work ethic and working harder than anybody else.
Which you do. You are one of the hardest working people I've ever met, and you love it and inspire all the people around you. And Bill does that to this day.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, Bill is, he's the hardest working individual that I've seen. And I've adapted probably some of his traits from, the hours of the day. But for me, it's fun. I feel like I'm building something. I feel like, I'm creating a future for the company and part of a great team. And I also feel the responsibility of the people that are here. So, there's always well, you should work smarter, not harder. That's an easy thing to say. But when you have meetings, strategies, projects, budgets, finances, COVID, pandemic, go down the list, and email could be a full-time job. If somebody can outline what smarter means and the priorities and make it easier, great. But I always say if it's easy, anybody can do it.
And most people can't. And you work your way up through, we'll fast forward a couple decades, you work your way up to the point where you're on the senior leadership team. And at some point, well, people may have been, hey, there's, he's got an easy in here. At some point, you have to prove yourself, or you wouldn't have risen to the place that you got to on the leadership team. And then a few years ago, you come into work and you realize that the executives had been stealing from the company and stole millions of dollars from the company, and then that changed your role. What was that day and that realization like for you, and the change in your role?
Well, surreal, because these are people that I've been around my whole life and I'll say my whole career at Starkey. So you're right. You can get an opportunity. I was given an opportunity in sales leadership. I was given an opportunity as Starkey's vice president of sales here in the U.S. But you know what? It starts with the title, but then what am I going to do with it? I've got to produce. I have to perform. There's no hiding behind a title or a family company. If you're part of the family, you still have to do it, or I always joke about you're going to be Tommy Boy, right? And everybody's going to be quietly laughing behind your back, and you've got to perform. So for sales, when I was vice president of sales, pretty much through the 2004 to 2017, I had to step up and I had to have the respect of the customers and the staff. And then that day you're talking about where, you realize people that you trusted, birthdays, Christmases, everything, is kind of maybe wasn't what we thought was real, wasn't real. But you also I found a new gear. I found something like you go into a protect and survival mode because you've found out something that's very big, and it's not about myself or the family. It's all the employees, because the rest that are here, they trusted these people too. But you also knew that the truth wasn't going to get out for a while, but you had to continue to do what is right and keep the high ground and keep fighting and being determined to make sure the company's going to survive.
And you're in the hearing aid business, which is not a business that is typically public. And I mean, you're privately owned. I don't mean that the ownership piece. I mean, that is in the papers. People don't generally talk about the leaders of companies the way that you got talked about and the way that it became sort of a tabloid. How did you prepare yourself mentally for that? I mean, it was almost like a politician where you have to just let things roll off your back, but yet you live here. Your employees live here. You have a family, and this is all out there. Lies.
I was very stunned, surprised. What happened from, I think it was September 8th of 2015 until, really after the jury awarded their ruling. And then a little bit after, as I've told you, there's people that have a lot of other trauma in their life and really bad things happen. So I kept telling myself that for 3 years, we're going to get through this. This is white collar crime. There's worse things going on in the world. I've got to do what I can for the jobs of the people. You just get attacked and pummeled. And then you just understand that, what sells newspapers or what is clicking on headlines online and such. It's not going to be about the bad guys. It's going to be about what is known here in a community or nationally or whatever it might be, because you're the story. And then all the stories and sensationalism start taking a life of its own, and you got to cloud it out. You have to just block it out. And I made a promise to myself, as you mentioned in the opening. I'm on President Bush's library board for his library, And I've talked to him several times. And one thing that he always said after he left office is that, he wasn't going to comment or say anything bad about President Obama. And it wasn't his place. Now he's the former president. And I took that to heart in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different scenarios. And I kind of, made that my rule starting on September 8th, 2015. I was going to stay high. I wasn't going to say anything because it doesn't do any good. And I just had to keep focusing on what the end goal was, because I, knew what I knew. I knew who was right. I didn't know all the details and the facts by any means that would eventually come out of what else and everything else that was done. But I just stayed true to who the company was, who I am, what I need to do for the employees, and I wasn't going to get in the mud. I had several very good friends who were also politicians, both sides of the party. One told me, you've got to have skin as thick as a rhinoceros. And one told me, you've got to compartmentalize. And so for me, compartmentalizing is somewhat natural. It does take time to grow that thick skin, but eventually it does happen. And, it's what you have to understand is you can only control what you can control. You can't try and, please everybody or change everybody's mind.
Have you forgiven them?
Oh, gosh, good question. Have I forgiven them? I feel sorry for them, to be honest. There's some things it's hard to forgive because it's personal, meaning, I talked about personal, like birthdays and other events outside of work. I mean, these are people that would ask you how your family is or give your daughter birthday gifts and stuff like that. It hits home and it's hard to not think of that. But I feel sorry for them because this didn't have to happen. None of that had to happen. I mean, their families, all the people that they impacted, it really is a prime example of what greed and power can do to one's mind. And that's why you got to stay humble. As you talked about, for me being in a small town, I don't like really talking about myself. I'm sure there's a time that you've got to, when you're telling stories or anecdotes in front of classes, it's okay. But even for me, it's still kind of uncomfortable. And, I've asked myself that for four years now, have I forgiven? And I think so. And I know if you always say yes, well, then you should say, of course you do. It's hard to forget. That's what I can't get out of my mind. And I can't forget a lot of things over, 15, 17, 26 years. But I will tell you that, I've definitely moved on, and I think everything happens for a reason. I wish a lot of things did not happen. It didn't have to happen. But, for me and my, I will say in the last year internally, yeah, I would answer your question. Yes, I think I am at peace and definitely forgiven what has happened, and they've made their decisions that they have to live with.
What's been interesting to watch you go through it is you are so loyal, and you have had people that entered into your inner circle, which is quite small, who really hurt you. And yet you're still willing to allow people in. And it hasn't changed the fact that you're loyal. You're still, to this day, it didn't change the core of you. And I think to a lot of people, what you went through and all that happened would have changed just your belief that humans can be good.
I'm loyal to a fault. Yes, loyalty is I think one of my natural values. I think you think about when you're a kid and you've got that best friend, or maybe you're the one that doesn't have the friend and you want a best friend, and you get the best friend and you're just loyal to them. And for me, I'm a pretty loyal person. I've after all, I'm a Cubs fan since 1982, so I'm very loyal. And when you think you know everything, meaning somebody's soul or who they are and what the words that are said to you, and they're your friends, and then that kind of criminal activity happens, you question your judgment on people. I mean, you naturally would. Bill would always say, you still got to trust people. I mean, this is a guy that, he's been in business over close to 60 years now. And, he's been burned, but, in whatever type of situation it might be. And this one was obviously a major development. But he kept telling me, you still got to trust people. There's human decency, and most people are good. Majority of people are good. And President Bush has always said that to me too. He said, people are decent people. There's going to be some bad ones, but the majority is small. And I kept telling myself that, because you do really question then who you surround yourself with or who you open up to.
Do you wish that you were able to have a broader circle, or do you like that you have a very tight circle of people around you?
I like a tight circle, because then they know me and I know them, and I can trust where they're coming from with their insight, counsel, or opinions. When you get a large circle, however somebody might define that, you get too many opinions. If you're, talking about business and what to do in strategy and everything, it gets very, take the insight, that's fine, but too many opinions can slow you down. That's for sure.
So all these things happened. The trial is over, and people, punishment is happening, and then you are left to rebuild the company. And we've talked about it before. If someone was going to do a business case about it, the company should have never kept going. And not only did you come in a role you weren't really expecting to take at that time, and put a new team together, and the company grew under your leadership, and you were just, promoted to CEO. So when you built that team, what were you looking for? How did you do it? Because I think a lot of people who, God forbid, never have to go through what you went through can learn a lot from building a team and being real selective in who's on that leadership team.
You're right. I guess the first thing I did focus on was building a functional team, what was needed for the company. I don't have the formal training for CEO or president in my last 20 years. I don't think there is a formal. You could go to school and you get your MBA and whatever learning you want to continue to push yourself forward with. But my learning for 20 years has been on the industry, but also real life situations. You're going to learn from failing. And I have 26 years of failures. And those failures lead to opportunities. They lead to learning. And so I was able to learn the industry, the company, the people, our customers, the patient. So I have all of that background. And for me, then you have to say, okay, what kind of team? Starkey deserves the best team that I could put, here on this campus. And it's just like any sports teams. I know a lot of people use sports analogies, but you've got to, make sure you've got the right player for the right position. I don't know how to, I don't need to know how to play first base and catch and play center field. I need to be the best manager, leader, coach that I can be. And then I bring in the right team that's going to come in for the jobs we need. And it's really about, I wanted diverse minds. I wanted diverse backgrounds. I wanted people that were going to push me, question me. And I say this all the time. I've said it publicly many, many times in interviews, is I hire people smarter than me. If I'm the smartest person in the room, there's a problem. So, for me, it's about, when you're looking in our industry, it's about hearing technology and what can be done. I'm not going to be the engineer that's going to go look at the circuit and the memory or capacity and the MIPS and how we're going to wire everything in 2.4 and the antennas and the radios. I'm going to hire the best people that's going to come in and make us the best hearing aid. Then I'm going to hire the best person for our manufacturing, quality, reliability of that product, and so on and so on. So when those players come together in our meetings and, your locker room chemistry, that chemistry has to be there. That diversity and that diverse thinking and mindset has to be there in order to make any company better. It takes time for that team to gel. And so you've got some of our executives and leadership members that know the industry. And then you got a new mindset of talent and experience coming into our industry who know GE, who know Intel, who know Medtronic and other types of companies. And you're gelling that outside experience with the industry experience. And my approach was a rising tide floats all boats. So, as the company starts to perform under this new leadership, they're going to make each other better, and they're going to make me better.
So in 20, 30, 50, however many years, and you are passing the baton to the next person who's going to sit there, how would you want people to finish the sentence? When Brandon led us, we learned so much about X. What do you want that to be? I know you hate questions like this. I know you hate questions like this.
I know it's a tombstone question. He cared. Because I think if you lead with care and you have people that care and you hire people that care, the company and everything is going to pull through the tough times a lot quicker and better and stronger, just like we have with COVID. And you have a caring person, and I think I would describe myself more of a servant leader. I'm not about the power, the greed, all of that. The branded CEO, right? I kind of like to go under the radar and just work with the team and have fun and care about what I do, and I care about the team.
You've talked a lot about team, and I talk a lot about it. What happens at home impacts work, and what happens at work impacts home. And one of your, maybe the most important team member you have is Stacy. How have you navigated family? I know that's an important value of yours in this public role, in the fishbowl that has become your life now.
It's a balance. I'm probably more balanced in my time and understanding of where I need to focus. As I said, you can work harder or smarter. I'm probably in the middle because it's still hard work. Trying to work smarter, I think, with being home when I need to be home, and really having those more open discussions. When you go through this, what we did publicly 5 years ago, and it seemed like story after story all the time. You didn't know when you were going to get punched. The Stacy and the families, everybody was supportive. There was so much support, and that's why when I really look back, you can always think of the one or two things, but Stacy and Amelia and William, our kids, my parents, friends, customers, everybody's been supportive because they know who we are, they know our heart, and just some bad things happened, but you've got to have a good support system where you don't feel like you're fighting and alone, because there are days, I feel, you feel like, you're in it alone. There's really nobody to complain up. You don't want to complain out. And, getting through everything, I always think of this quote by Winston Churchill is, if you're going through hell, keep going, because this too shall pass. And, as I always think, people have other problems that are far worse than mine, or far worse than some businesses, because if you got health and family, that's what it's got to start with. And then everything else will kind of just take care of itself.
That's fantastic insight and advice. And at the beginning, I talked about the hearing aid is not boring, and the hearing aid, we've seen we've talked about the drama that is like a Lifetime movie happening, off to the side. But then then there's the actual hearing aid, which under your leadership has gone way beyond. Bill has dreamed about some of these things, but they're real now. Talk just briefly about some of the things that are happening now and you want to see in the future with hearing aids, because, hopefully we both live long enough to have to need one.
Yeah, well, you kind of start off with, this is the hearing aid business, for crying out loud. You're helping people, right? You're caring. And then it feels like if we were a TV series, it's like Billions meets the movie Forrest Gump. It's so crazy that what I've had the fortunate opportunity to experience, because we are in a business that more and more people need what we provide. So whether you're, the person in Eden Prairie, Hopkins, whoever it might be that needs hearing help, or you're an entertainer or actor or world leader, everybody needs to hear, because hearing is about connectivity. So because of what we do and our reputation for our product and our Libio Edge AI products and for better hearing, word of mouth spreads, and the people that you meet, I could be walking in one day and there's, so-and-so Academy Award-winning actor, or, global leader. You never know who you're going to see when you walk into this place that's looking for better hearing. And for us, we make a product in an aging population. You've got probably, 440 million people have hearing loss in the world. It's going to be over 1 billion by, I think it's 2030, next 10 to 15 years. So more and more people need what we're providing, and we're about connectivity. So for us, when I go back to, you got to care, you got to lead with your heart, because if you're worried about the money and the profit all the time, you're going to get sidetracked. You can't save your way to success. You've got to provide a product and a service that's going to help people. And that's what hearing aids and hearing technology does, and what we do. I want to make hearing aids, eliminate the stigma, and we're making hearing aids cool. We're making them, more acceptable and functional in what they can do, because it's not the hearing aids of 30 years ago or 20 years ago. I mean, these are lifestyle type products that connect people with people, and you have to be able to communicate, talk with each other, or you have social isolation. And again, then, that's not good for your grandparents, your parents, or humanity overall.
It's so interesting what you said about the people that you could see at Starkey, because there are people that would be recognized. And I've been there and been walked by someone and thought, oh, wow, I shouldn't turn around or take a selfie, but that's interesting. And then most of the time it's lovely senior citizens who are just so grateful. My own parents, my in-laws, who have had life transformed because of better hearing. So I think it's disappointing that the industry does have such a boring kind of reputation, because it's so critical and can make such a difference. And you see that every day. That's your normal.
Yeah, that's the normal, because you see it in their eyes. People think of hearing aids, and there's always stigmas in movies and TV and in our society. And the stigma on hearing aid is, right, it's, what do you think of when you think of a hearing aid? I ask this all the time, does anybody in here want a hearing aid? Well, nobody raised their hand, because what do you think of? Well, I'm old. Well, maybe you're just missing something. And again, it's not about hearing loss, it's about hearing gain. How can we help you perform better and get connected? So you see that in people's eyes, because it's as simple as, them hearing their feet again on the carpet, shuffling on the carpet, or the leaves outside blowing, or the water running. I mean, it's the little things that you eventually forget. And you're right, it doesn't matter who it is. I think it was like 1996 when I was here, and also kind of still, yes, in sales, but I would do the pickups at the airport or whatever was needed. Walter Cronkite came, he was taken care of by Mr. Austin for, the last, I would say, 15 years of his life. And I got to pick him up. And then when you could go to the gate at the airport, picked him up there, and I got to spend the day with him. And just for me, the questions, I'm a history buff. So I got to talk to him about every president from Truman to Eisenhower to what he thought of Kennedy to Nixon on up, and learn that history. And I've been able to do that with other business leaders, whether it's a Walter Cronkite, or whether, you and I have had excellent conversations on, being an entrepreneur and you starting your own business and your history. And I've, talked with the executives from Best Buy, and I could go down the list, and other global leaders and such. It's learning from those people, or that opportunity in my job, that's made me better, but also understanding how much hearing and that connectivity is important for them to be able to perform. Walter Cronkite kept coming up. His hearing, he had a horrible hearing loss. And for him to be able to do what he was doing, even in the 90s, he had to be connected. And I can go down the list of people that just want to be connected and hear. because, they took it for granted at some point in time. And when you lose it, you can't get it back. And there's that desire to get reconnected once you know that you're missing out.
And hearing aids that you're making are so cool. It's going to get to the point where people are going to want them before they need them because of all the other things that they can do.
Yes, I think our sons, right? My William and your son Alec, good friends. They wanted when we first came out with Livios, they wanted the Livio hearing aids because of the streaming, for music and the translation, all the other cool features. But we're seeing that, people are asking more about it, and it really is the hearing solution. Hearing loss isn't under the radar from a standpoint of, people know if they have a hearing loss. It takes them about 7 years to do something about it because it's not important. I'm not going to die from it, or there isn't anything urgent. For somebody to do something about their hearing loss, it's either through fear, desire, obligation. People are working longer in life, family. And now what's kind of coming up with the technology we're bringing to market and have been developing, and really the only AI products and healthable features in our industry and in the world, is that people are recognizing that hearing aids go beyond just the amplification and the hearing and noise. Buying something online and popping in your ear, that's not a hearing. That's just an amplifier. It doesn't work like that. It takes a trained professional and the fit and the comfort, because every ear is different, like a fingerprint. And if you look at the other features that we're bringing, yes, you want to hear better, but people want to live better. How can we help people perform better in their daily routine? And basically, putting, some of the, for lack of a better example, a Fitbit inside of a hearing aid, or putting a sensor in a hearing aid for your heartbeat. Or as I mentioned, the translation, fall detection and alert. For if a loved one falls, the person, a caretaker, is alerted through a text message on their phone. We've got many calls or letters, people thanking us for that have saved people's lives. And with Livio, the design and all the other features, we've got whether it's Time Magazine, Silicon Valley publications, everything. They're looking at the technology and acknowledging that we're making hearing aids cool. We're making people think differently about what it can do.
And let's just clear something up here. So my son was like, 9, and he comes home from school. What do you want for your birthday? I want a hearing aid. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, because William has them.
Yeah.
And you have talked a little bit about our background, and our relationship started because our kids were friends. Mm-hmm. And that was from first grade on, and I watched what happened publicly to you and your family as a friend and close with your wife, and it's hard to watch good people suffer like that when you know that it's not true. And we professionally started working together in the last couple of years, but it's been really impressive to watch how you have raised your kids and fought for your kids, and despite all that's happened around them, protected them. And yeah, they might wear hearing aids to school, but otherwise they're pretty normal kids.
Yeah, very, very normal. William, as with, with Alec in the same class, whether it's streaming or William using his translator in one of his, I think it was French class, or might've been Spanish. Stacy and others might have thought that might be cheating in class. I thought it was creative, solution oriented. But yeah, he wanted, I think had to be his 11th birthday, wanted the Livios. I'm like, what? I want the Livio, because we came out with him just in September. His birthday is October 3rd. He goes, yeah, I want a set of Livios. And I was stunned. I'm like, my first reaction was, no, you don't. What are you talking about? And then I caught myself. I'm like, he's doing exactly what we're trying to change the stigma on what hearing aids are. And it took me back, by surprise, and I had to check myself. And sure enough, he got a set of Livios for his birthday, and he was wearing them to school proudly.
And all the other kids wanted them, and he has got super short hair, so you see them.
Yeah.
And I think, did he get colored ones? Because they were, he's proud of them, which is awesome.
He got the Apple white, just like, because AirPods and stuff, but he was wearing the white ones. Yes. Yeah. So he just wanted everybody to see them, just like Damon John. Damon John's a good friend of ours. I've known him since 2012, and he wears Livios and he wears the cherry bright red. He's one of two that has that color because he wants people to ask him about them.
That's the future. I mean, the future is the technology you're creating, and the future is people saying, look at how cool my hearing aids are, not I'm going to grow my hair out to cover them up.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Brandon, in all of your one of the last two questions, in all of your experiences, you started in this small town, humble young man, not all that interested in school, goes on. You meet people, you see people. What's the one experience, or is there one where you think, I can't believe this is happening to me?
Oh, yes. There's been a couple. Like I said, I like going back to my hometown. Very humble. My sophomore guidance counselor in high school says that I should look into noble professions, but being a logger or a garbage man because of my desire of whatever he was testing me on. And then given the opportunity really to engage with people. And if I look back of all the people I've met, it's easy to go to the celebrities or moments, and I've had the fortunate opportunity, but when you ask that question, it's really, I've been on volunteer for the Starkey Hearing Foundation. I've seen it here. It's when you put a hearing aid on that that you're helping create, design. As I said, our why is, we change people's lives through better hearing. And when you put a hearing aid on somebody that didn't have access or resources, and you see that in their eyes, and then they start crying. They've never heard sound, never heard their mother sound, never heard, anything, because, everybody thought, and this is how what they would say in some of these countries is, these are the words: deaf, dumb, and defective. That's how they would label these people in school. And it's just a hearing loss. There's nothing wrong with these people. It's just they can't hear. And we would put a hearing aid on, and boom, you see their eyes light up. They hear their mother's voice. Mom starts crying. They cry. Then you're trying to, okay, hold it together, because that's really what makes it worthwhile, is the people that you're changing their lives and helping. For me, is there one? It's hard to pick just one, but I will tell you that I've had a lot of people that I've been able to pick their brains and interview and talk with. I think President Bush, when he was in office, I had the opportunity when he came to Minnesota, and I had to kind of pinch myself. It's really the first time I've been around a sitting president. And it really is, you get in awe of the office, and politics aside. It's not that you're just kind of awe of your country and the office. And then being able to know him as well as I do now. And I've been able to interview him for our Hearing Innovation Expo, 3 times when he comes to our gala, and I now have the honor of being on his board and involved with his Wounded Warriors. And, we're first name basis, and I'm being able to talk and ask him questions about leadership and about, certain situations. It's very, very rewarding. The second would be our Livio launch event in August of 2018. And that was rewarding because that's kind of like where we started. We weren't over the hump. You never feel like you've made it. But seeing the entire campus and the team and all the employees celebrate what we set out to do in just a year's time in redefining and reinventing the hearing aid, and seeing how happy everybody was, that was a rewarding and reflecting time, because that's really that you're doing everything for the right reasons.
You mentioned a quote earlier, and maybe that's the quote that is the answer to the last question, which is there a quote from a book or a song or something that has motivated you? Because when I think about flipping your script, you are a poster child for flipping your script. Anyway, is there a quote or something that you want to share?
I think for me is as I mentioned, a fan of history. The books that I read are going to be about people that have been there and done that. So, I read a lot of presidential history, whether it's John Adams, Truman, Washington, but I'm a big fan of course, Lincoln and, the trials and tribulations. And I mean, you talk about somebody that, had to keep it together and went through hell and kept going on so many levels. There's one quote from him that always sticks out to me, and it doesn't matter what it is you decide to do. But the famous quote is, whatever you are, be a good one. And, there was a quote from Lincoln that has always stuck with me because you've got to give it your all. Titles are cheap. I say that all the time. And my title is cheap unless I do something with it. And for 26 years, I've tried to give it all I got. You learn from your mistakes, but whatever you're doing in that moment, whether it's the first in, last out, whatever you are, be a good one.
Well said. Great way to end. Thank you for taking time to do this and to let me be on the other side of the microphone. It's a little bit fun. I feel so much power.
This is, I enjoy this. It's like I said, I don't like talking a lot about my past from a standpoint of just myself, but if I could help anybody, I'm always mentoring and helping and doing what I can.
That's one of the things that I hope that you learn from this episode and Brandon's story is that anything is possible with hard work and to look forward rather than backwards. Surround yourself with smarter people and look to them, lead to the future, lead with your heart. And a wonderful piece of advice that other people talk about a lot and I think is important, especially thinking about some of the backstory that Brandon shared, this too shall pass. My hope is that Brandon's story empowers you to believe you're capable of more than you think, to discover motivation, to uncover inspiration, and to find the strength to turn the page.
Thank you for listening to Flip Your Script, hosted by Kristi Piehl and produced by Media Minefield. If you like our message, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating, subscribe to the show, and share our episodes with your family and friends. Do you or someone you know have a story about flipping your script? We'd love to share it. Contact us on our website, flipyourscriptpodcast.com. To stay up to date on all things Flip Your Script, make sure to follow host Kristi Piehl on social media. You can also check out the website for pictures, resources mentioned in the show, and other great episodes.